And now on to Khan's Digital World. This will be hosted by a famous personality, Dr. Badrul Khan, whom I say is a world-renowned personality. Dr. Khan is an advisor, he is a consultant, and an author, and a well-known figure on global television networks. Anyway, in this episode, Dr. Khan will feature two prominent guests from our community. Let's find out who they are and their conversation.
Welcome to Khan's Digital World. I'm Badrul Khan. Today, we're going to talk about e-invoicing. And for that, we have Mr. Kevin Greer. Welcome, Kevin.
Welcome.
And Kevin Greer is the Managing Director at Acceture. And Kevin, please enlighten us with what is electronic invoices, who are using it, what are the benefits, and go ahead, please.
Yes. Electronic invoicing has become quite popular within the private and within the federal marketplace today. Regular invoicing consists of a vendor being able to take for goods or services that they produce, they issue an invoice, and that invoice then goes to the company. That takes a lot of time and cost. So electronic invoicing is defined as that payment request being able to be submitted to a government or to an industry and being able to receive that electronically, then being able to, using workflow, be able to track and be able to show from receipt all the way through payment online. This is becoming standard practice, and if you think about maybe making a purchase online with Amazon, then you would immediately see the purchase happen. You would see when the receipt or when the credit card statement may be posted, and you may see the delivery of goods through. So you'll be able to see the process from end to end, and that's what e-invoicing is doing for businesses.
So, for example, we as a citizen, we can order something from online store. And so we pay through our credit cards. And in that situation, how e-invoicing work? How does it work?
Yes, so in that case, that happens to be a business-to-consumer type transaction. E-invoicing is often done between business to business. One of the industries that I work in today is with the federal government, and there's 200 federal government agencies. Interestingly enough, the U.S. federal government is the largest single purchaser of goods and services in the United States. They process 19 million invoices per year. Only 40% of those invoices happen to be using electronic invoicing. The other 60% today are being processed via manual or some form of electronic payment. So the government is very concerned when they receive an invoice, and if it is manual, if they don't pay it within the proper time frame, they'll incur interest charges, and they will have to pay interest on top of the invoice. So it's really to the best benefit of the taxpayer for the government to use all e-invoicing to the extent possible.
So you're saying that about 40% of government contracts are done with invoicing?
Correct.
So you think that in future, the rest of the 60% hopefully will be all e-invoicing because it has the value of just-in-time service, and it's also cost-effective. And also I want to ask you about how safe they are in this transaction, the security issues also.
Yes. The government is working on an aggressive timeline. Actually, by 2018, there's a new mandate that every government agency is to use new prescribed, approved e-electronic invoicing systems. That will help to increase that 40% upward. Another benefit of that is going to be the small business community. When you submit an invoice in, you will have visibility to be able to find out where your invoice has been received, how it processes through the transaction process, and they'll know if they're going to get paid on time, and they'll have a comfort feeling. They'll be able to manage their own cash flow because they'll know when they're going to get paid. So there are benefits. Regarding your question of security, the security is quite established today. Just as if you would make a electronic purchase online, they have better encryption actually with the government in this submission. So it's very safe, it's very fast, and there's a lot of benefits, including it costing much less for the government to process and better government.
So do you think this e-invoicing, do you think that is also going to be more useful for the other countries in the world? Are they using it, or how global this e-invoicing can work with a very secure way?
Absolutely. I think that in private industry, they're going to e-invoicing with majority of businesses. I think this is a global phenomenon, and not only will the U.S. be adopting electronic invoicing standards, but many countries are further ahead actually. Canada, Australia, many nations, UK, are doing full adoption. So I would expect that this will be a global phenomenon, and it will be implemented around the world.
Well, I know there are a lot of benefits about e-invoicing. Do you see any not so good news about e-invoicing? Any disadvantages on e-invoicing?
I think the benefits far outweigh the cons. I mean, clearly the visibility, the timing, the lower cost, the convenience, the allowing of organizations 24/7 to be able to do their work and submit, to have visibility, and really just as was mentioned, to have a lower cost for the government to process transactions is truly one of the better benefits.
Well, viewers, what I learned, I hope you all learned the same thing today, that we are living in a digital world. In the digital world, we do a lot of transaction online. Now, e-invoicing is a part of the digital world, and we have to be very knowledgeable about what we are dealing with, who we are dealing with, and you have to be very secure. However, e-invoicing is the way to go between business to business, also for consumer to business. Viewers, thanks for watching. Next, I will have an episode on e-taxing. Thanks. Welcome to Khan's Digital World. I'm Badrul Khan. As I always say, we live in a digital world. All the transactions that we do, we have to be very careful. At the same time, they are beneficial. We as citizens, we have to file taxes. Today, we have with us, she is Kusum Ramachandran, and welcome to Khan's Digital World.
It's very nice of you to have me on.
Thank you. And so it's time for taxing. In the digital world, what do we do for taxing? Well, you've been involved in helping people filing taxes.
Mm-hmm.
What is e-taxing, and how is different than when we used to go our own filling up the 1040 by doing in hand? How different it is? What is the benefit? Who are using it? Please talk about that.
Sure. Good morning, viewers. Very few people. The IRS has statistics on how the exponentially electronic filing has grown over the years. Now, fewer and fewer people really file their taxes on paper. When I started more than 20 years ago, there were more people filing paper tax returns than electronically, because everybody had a fear in those days of electronics. Now, it would be a rare person who would, not to say that we don't have people who insist to this day that they do not want to send their tax returns electronically. They still want to file because there is some comfort, but they are mostly older people who are not used to technology. The number one advantage is that as soon as your tax return is transmitted, you get an acknowledgement. So you know that April 15th means April 15th, because by midnight of April 15th, if your tax return has been transmitted, you immediately get an acknowledgement and you know that you filed a timely tax return.
When you file the e-taxing method, so you go to your computer.
Yes.
And you go through what we're asking and you fill them up.
All the
and
forms.
But what about you need to do signature, like we are used to sign on the paper.
Yes.
Now you have to sign online.
Yes.
And tell us how that works.
So there's electronic signatures. If you go to a professional, they actually have specified forms. For the IRS, it's form 8879, and you have to sign this form and you have to provide a copy to your preparer. But if you use like online software that's available like TurboTax or any of these, then they also have signature requirements which have you verify that you are indeed the person that you say you are. And there are companies like Adobe and DocuSign that make you allow for secure signatures, because the fear always, especially now with a lot of identity theft, people are afraid to send you their documents and put their social security numbers on those documents and send it to you. So most of the professionals now, they have a secure portal where it's presumably so protected that nobody can break into it and steal information. But having the e-signature is a must, because if you come to me and you say, if you just send me an email that, the tax return looks fine, go ahead and file it, that's not good enough. In a specified format, you have to have the signature, then you can scan it and email the PDF document. If we have that in our records, then that's suitable for electronic filing, and that's an absolute must.
Wow. And is this e-filing all over the world for purposes of taxing and other?
I'm not familiar with all the countries, but believe it or not, most of the countries now allow. I'm originally from India, and in India now most of the forms are filed electronically, and they also have some strict signature requirements. So if you go to a preparer, get your tax return prepared, the preparer transmits it, later he also has to upload the signed document, and there's a time frame within which it has to be done, otherwise even the preparer is in violation of the code. Similarly, over here, we are supposed to retain those documents for a minimum of 3 years, so that if the IRS asks us that, who authorized you to transmit this person's tax return, then you have the signature documents on file that you share with them. Then they know that you did it with the express consent of the taxpayer and not behind his back. And a lot of times, believe it or not, we see this in situations where the spouses are going through a rough time. Maybe they are separated or going through divorce. One spouse says, here's the signatures, and the other spouse sometimes says that, I never authorized it, and for this reason, we cannot transmit a jointly filed tax return with only one signature. It is a must that both the spouses must sign.
Is there a restriction? Can anyone be qualified as e-filer?
No, there is actually a process that you go through. There's a background verification, and then you get what is called an electronic e-fin, an electronic filer identification number. And once you have that, then without that you cannot. However, the IRS has identified some persons who have registered with them, and they can offer electronic filing through the IRS website. Through the use of these people, you can file electronically, but they also, like I said, have to be checked out with a background check, make sure that their own filings are all correct. If I don't file my own tax return on time, then I'm not authorized to file somebody else's on their behalf.
You mentioned especially older citizens who are not so used to using technology like computers, and it's obviously very difficult for them to buy into the new ideas. Every day is coming e-taxing, e-invoicing, e-commerce. It's difficult.
Yes.
Now, how secure this e-taxing? How do you convince them to go through e-taxing, and how can they feel their information, their tax return is secure and safe?
Believe it or not, we actually have managed to persuade a lot of the older people. They actually still physically come into the office to get their tax returns prepared and to sign off on them, but then we show them that, it's a secure website that it goes through, we get an acknowledgement, and presumably they have not been hacked.
Oh, it sounds like a blended e-taxing.
Yes.
Viewers, this is wonderful. Living in a digital world, we have to do so many transactions. E-taxing is one of them. Well, thank you for watching. See you in my next episode next time. Thank you for watching.